From Significant, this is Crack It in an Hour.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. I'm Simon.
I'm Jessie.
I'm Roman.
And for those of you who know, you know the deal. It is one problem, 1 hour crack it once a week. One of us brought that problem. The other two have no idea what it is. And this week, who has the problem? Jessie, do you have the problem?
I have the problem.
And then Roman, do you have the clock?
So I just started.
All right, perfect. Jessie, let's go.
I feel like you could almost guess, like if you thought about it for a second, you could probably guess what the topic is going to be. I thought I might
give us a little more of a hint.
What big thing are we doing this month together?
World Cup?
World Cup.
Second
we're
one.
going to Cannes. Oh, I know what it is.
We're going to Cannes. And are you excited about it? Are you dreading it? What happens at Cannes? I have no idea. Actually, I've never been. But what is Cannes?
Oh,
networking.
Wow.
It's networking. I know what it is because we had a test one day of an episode we never released, a short one about networking, and then we were like, this could be a bigger one actually. Why don't we talk about that?
It's the perfect topic for the perfect time.
Yeah.
Like, we're headed to Cannes. It is basically the Olympics of networking. Maybe less fun than the Olympics. I mean, I've never been, obviously, but I'm pretty sure that's how I'm thinking about it. And I think Simon, I actually can't remember who initiated this topic the first time we briefly chatted about it, but it was such an interesting one. And I've been thinking about it so much ever since, about how terrible networking feels, how much everybody feels they have to do it, but how much no one likes it. And I thought, ahead of Cannes, the greatest networking event of all time, let's try to make networking better. How would we change it?
Right.
How would we make it enjoyable? Or how would we make it more productive? Maybe it doesn't have to be fun. You know my philosophy. I think everything should be fun, but maybe the goal is to make it more productive. So I don't have a ton of very specific stats, but there were a couple things I thought were interesting. I was trying to look into the percentage of jobs that are filled through networking versus an actual job posting. And there are so many different statistics around it, but the answer is very high. 85% or somewhere near 85%. It's not surprising, but I do think it's interesting we all complain about networking. Everybody hates it, but it actually is still kind of making the business world go round. I thought there was this really interesting study from Harvard about how networking makes people feel dirty. And specifically, I think that was quite literally the headline, but
did you hear me audibly groaning somewhere else, in the world at that headline?
Yeah, exactly. But they said a lot of professionals say they feel morally dirty after networking because it feels so transactional. And then I was thinking a little bit about LinkedIn, which is theoretically was born as the networking social platform. Of course, there are many things that we could talk about today. LinkedIn has over 1 billion users today, but somehow feels like the least networking platform on the planet. And maybe that's even something interesting to talk about, is where does networking need to happen? Because I think where it used to happen, or where we thought it was going to happen, is not really, it's not even being used that way anymore. It's kind of sort of become a performative platform for the idea of networking. So that's I know that we've had conversations in the past about it. We can talk about why networking feels so terrible. I mean, I'm actually curious, have either of you been to a networking event that you truly enjoyed?
Yeah. Oh, you're about to go to one. Okay, I have a hot take just off of what you said.
Yeah.
If you feel dirty networking, you're bad at networking. Networking, when you're good at it, doesn't feel like networking. It feels like there's a level of personal connection, a level of curiosity about what the other people do. It's meant to be like, when done correctly, it's not like, hello, head of operations at so and so corporation. I am interested. Like, that's horrible. Like, don't
Yeah.
count me out. But like, when you're like, literally, like, networking is like when two billionaires are friends with each other because they're just friends, but then also billionaires, and then they come up with another $1 billion idea through just talking about that stuff. That's
Yeah.
networking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so it's like, I think the thing that I have about it is like, first of all, you can tell, like, I actually quite like it. And I don't mind doing it at all. And I think it's because of my natural curiosity about what so many other people are doing and the opportunities. I'm a pretty like opportunity optimist. Like, I see like,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. How do you do that? How do I do that?
Yeah.
How do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think like whenever people are like, oh, it feels icky and it feels this, I'm like, you're like a grade 1, maybe kindergarten level networker.
Yeah.
And you don't know that like networking isn't what you are. Like, you are walking in and like trying to look like a networker and like, hello, I am networking. And like, that always sucks. That always sucks. And everyone else around you think that sucks too. Even if they're doing the same thing, they hate it. And that's what makes that ick feeling.
Yeah.
But that's not good networking. You can't blame networking on being shit at it. That's like me saying I hate ice hockey because I'm bad at ice hockey. You know what I mean? Like, it's
But
like, that's not fair.
You know what else is networking that a lot of people actually like? And to me, it is networking. So networking has a branding problem. It's just
Yes.
a party. It's a party.
It is.
If you go to a party, it's
Literally.
networking. Like if you go to, like, obviously not, right? We talked about parties already. I'm talking like a party with lots of people, not a dinner party with your 4 best friends. But you go to a party with lots of people and you know just 5 of them, you go with your core crew. That's technically networking. You're going to end up having fun with people you've never met before. You're going to end up like cracking jokes with people you've never met before. Maybe you'll end up knowing what they do for a living. Maybe you don't. That's not the point. But it's just it's the same principle. It's like entering a space to have a social interaction with someone you've never met, right? And so to me, it's if you enter a quote unquote networking event with that same philosophy, then suddenly it's a reframe. You're just going to have fun. You're going to be everything that Simon said, I agree with. You're going to be curious. You're going to learn from people. You're going to be like, oh, well, never thought of it that way. And maybe you're going to make friends and maybe you won't, but that's okay. That's
Yeah.
the way I see it. I think it's got a huge branding issue because I understand why people say it gives me the ick. Like, I feel like I could just go there for transactional things. Well, just reframe it in your head and don't go just for transactional things. Go there as like inherently curious.
Jesse, you're like a 10 out of 10 level networker too. I don't know if you know that.
You're the
or not,
best.
but like,
You're the best.
you are like one of those people that I'm like, well, I can't do what you do. I don't have the stamina you have. Like, it's like the thing of like, and the reason I'm asking that is because do you think you hate networking? Cause I don't think you actually hate networking.
I don't. But I think my hot take is that people hate networking if you hate networking, then you entered that event without a plan.
I
Like
agree.
you,
I think so.
I think
Oh, it's
people,
interesting.
Sort of. Keep talking. I'm very interested.
I'm not saying that like you had an agenda. I think an agenda and a plan are different things. But like if you think that you're just rolling in there and like, gee, I hope like someone talks to me, gee, I hope there's interesting people. It's like, no, I think I approach networking like I approach strategy. I'm like looking at the room. I'm thinking about where's a good place to stand. I'm thinking about who's going to start fun. I see who's the most social person in the room. And I'm like, well, if I start talking to that person, then 7 more people are going to come up to talk to that person. And I've just made my job easy because now I'm going to get 7 more people chatting, having a conversation. I think you need like a wingman, wingwoman in networking. Like you to say, I do enjoy it. I enjoy making friends more than I would say I enjoy networking. But I would say that actually, if you think about the way that we have conversations together on my own, I could argue that like I just go somewhere and make really good friends, and maybe that's how you
Yeah.
should approach networking, and that you have the follow-up conversation later. But I think if you're hoping to get something out of the meeting, you need like someone to break the ice and someone to come in and like have the conversation, because I can get friend zoned real easily in something I'm trying to have a business conversation about, because I'm just like, oh my god, wait, show me pictures of your dog. Oh wait, I love that thing, let's talk about. but
But
but maybe that's a good thing.
it totally
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
People
100%.
want to
Yeah.
do business with friends. People want to do
Yeah.
business with friends. It's as simple
Yeah.
as that. And friends who have a curiosity about them and their life. And yes, business life, but also life beyond business. You know what I mean? Like,
And maybe that's why networking sucks. Like that's why the events feel like they suck to people, because if everyone there is approaching it with with an
yeah, that's a good point.
agenda, then it doesn't feel like I've been to events that I thought were not enjoyable because nobody there was interested in becoming my friend. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Right.
this is dumb. Like, I came here for
You're going,
friendship. Yeah. Like I don't want to be here. This sucks.
well, let's talk about what you're talking about, like which is like I like the idea of going working backwards from a networking event, because when I think about Can, the reason that Can, there's a few ingredients to Can that I think make it really good.
Yeah.
And I think like it never hurts to have a networking event in a place that is just fun, right? Like, cause we've all been to oh my God, we're going to a convention center 15 minutes away from the airport. Like that's where we're doing this. Like,
Yeah.
like when you have something disguised as, oh, but this is also just going to be a really great time. There's going to be great food. There's going to be, I think, also like a sense of shared discovery, like with the exception of people who know Can very well, there's something lovely in like trying a new restaurant together for the first time. Because
Yeah.
then you have stimulus for conversation beyond kind of the business itself. And I think Can always does a very good job of like really creating a lot of it's a really good balance of big enough but not too big so that you also bump into each other in kind
Yeah.
of a really, really good way that makes it feel more organic.
You're making me think of something that feels important that I don't know if people realize, because I every great party has a sub party inside the party. And that's
Usually in
where
the kitchen.
usually in the kitchen. And that's where the most fun is, at least in my opinion. And I
Yeah.
think people approach networking events as a holistic entity. Like I'm entering this event and I must try to speak with everyone. And I think I could go to one event and spend 90% of the evening in one area, one group. And I think you're going to get more out of that than trying to think that the job is to like network with everybody.
Yeah.
You got to create a
100%.
sub party, create a sub event inside the event.
Yeah, just go like find the people who are there for the same thing as you, which is having fun and having real just
Yeah.
conversations, right? It's like
Okay.
go ahead.
No, I mean, but we're good. We all generally enjoy this and we're good at it. But I do think there's still a problem that people hate. People think networking is like extremely painful. They don't enjoy networking events. It feels really like like you're putting on a micro performance the whole time. And I do think there are things that we could do to change
yeah.
that experience. Some of it, it's like
Yeah.
like Simon's favorite strategy. It's like I think you're the problem, not the event. There's a little bit of that. Like people could change themselves, but I do think the events themselves could be better.
Oh, I agree. Most,
also-
to be clear, a lot of quote unquote networking events are horrible. Also, first as an experience and as a networking opportunity, frankly. But go ahead, Roman. Sorry.
No, yeah, I agree. I was gonna go like what to a place that is similar to what you just said. Is like you probably need to start by reinventing some of the formats, because like Cannes is a bit of an exception. South by is another one. It's different. Originally, it's not a networking event, right? You end up going there and making lots of new friends and reconnecting with old ones. And I say friends like they're in the wide sense, like work friends, and basically reactivating your contacts and then meeting new people. But the origins of it is not that, right? There's another goal, like in Austin and Cannes. Like most networking events, I can't think of one actually that's not the case. The core of it is really, really tough. It's really boring. Like someone needs to reinvent panels. Like someone has to do that. Like no one really, like 99% of the panels, people just, and I get it, right? But what is the way to break through? Like people just try to protect their personal brands, and therefore they can't, there's no like strong opinions, right? There's nothing really that you learn at a panel. So yeah, sure, you go see a celebrity that you're a fan of, you're gonna have a personal takeaway from it, and it's more of an emotional takeaway than an actual learning, right? Because anything that person would have said, you probably know it already. They could have said it on the internet. But there's nothing in there. So is the panel the right format? Is there anything else that needs to happen for it to be a little more exciting to people? Like, are there any ingredients in the thing? Like balloons, great. Let's put balloons for Jesse. Jesse will show up to more events if you have balloons. Check. Anyone who wants Jesse, just call it a balloon party. But exactly. So like, no, but seriously though, what can we do? Like, when I see panel, I kind of get the ick, right? I'm like, I do want to talk and meet people, but do I really want to sit down for an hour and listen to people say things that are generally not very opinionated? They're smart people that have strong opinions. They just don't voice them in that context.
Well, and there's always that really awkward moment when a panel ends where everybody like rushes the stage trying to, as fast as possible, like get in line to speak to whoever was speaking, if you even get a shot at speaking to that person. I've always found that to be so disingenuous. Like, I don't know, that experience to me feels like, well, I like what you said, Roman. I mean, there's the question of can you reinvent sort of the panel, but also maybe the panel is not the thing. The panel might just be like, hey, you got to hear this thing for 45 minutes. Now put that aside. The rest of this is the networking event, not that thing itself.
Do you guys know the movie The Purge?
No.
Okay. So there's this movie called The Purge. And basically the idea behind the movie was that like one day a year, there's no laws.
Yeah.
And everyone is allowed to just go berserk. And like, it's like, you're allowed to murder, you're allowed to do whatever you want. It's a horror movie, but it's an interesting concept. And there's a podcast I listen to, and they have one episode a year called The Take Purge. And all it is it's all the things they want to say where their reputation is not attached to the take. And it's always a great episode. And like where my mind goes, Roman, is like what you want to do with, to be clear, I want to be clear. It's a sports podcast. So like they'll be like, here's my take. For example, what's it called? Patrick Mahomes is actually shit at football, and here's why. And then they'll just go off about why Patrick Mahomes is actually terrible at football. And what's so interesting about it is you have these really smart people who are being incredibly unguarded about this mix of sort of like informed, but this is more of an emotional argument. And that's what leads to a lot of interesting things. And the reason I came to that was I was like, that would be interesting for a panel, which is if you had an hour of like, just say what you feel more than you think. And no one's going to hold you to this. But like AI is a perfect example. We're about to walk into a place where I guarantee you out of the 4,000 panels about AI, about 2 will be worth going to. Honestly, like that's just the state of not AI. That's the state of talking about AI. It's very dull right now.
Yeah.
And so like, if you said, okay, we're going to get this person, what do you really think about AI? Like that would be immensely interesting.
Dude, I absolutely, I'm in love with this. I fucking love it. I want to do it. But I think the only way to do it, and it might actually exist, it's just not public. The only way to do it is to do like a no phones, no recording, no nothing.
I was just going to say that.
I think people still have to protect their reputation one way or another. And I'm not saying they're all going to be dicks. I'm saying you have to be able to remove the filters even though sometimes it's contrarian to some of your values, right? And I can think of like 3 takes right now that I'm not going to say that would create like, would get us canceled immediately, right? But I have an argument for them, and a very good argument. And I can convince people that if they can remove the political, religious, any kind of like systems, societal values from the conversation, then the logic stands. But you can't do that if it's too risky, right? For anyone.
I agree.
It's so I love
agree.
it. I think, and I imagine some kind of like get together. I'm trying to not call it networking, but let's call it networking. I imagine some kind of networking events actually exist where it's like a no phones allowed, and that would be a good place to start.
Yeah. This is like my cheesy version, but I've always one thing I've always found interesting about like even like debate clubs is that you will often have to prepare for both in favor or against something. And it's like you have to take both sides and then you just see which one you're arguing. And it's all about the art of the argument and having a perspective. And I think take Cannes, for example, it would be really interesting if the panel was actually a debate between 2 opposing views, but they actually had to argue in favor of the other person's. So like if you took a holding company exec, take a holding company exec and an independent exec and have independents argue for why holding companies and have holding companies argue for why independence. Like I'm interested in that conversation because it's forcing perspective. It's interesting and it forces people to say some of the things that like as a, maybe as a holding company person, like you actually agree with this thing, but you can't say it because you're not allowed to, but in this format you can.
That's so good. That's such a good idea. You know who should do that? Like literally just the concept many people could, but just the idea you just brought, breaking and entering should do it.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it would be so good.
It is. They build their brands in such a good way that it gives them the authorization to do something like that. I think the liberty to do that, and I think actually the people would pick up the phone and actually go do it because they created that space where you can actually be a little more playful, be a little more contrarian, as opposed to, I would say, just the standard rules of media, right? So I think your idea is like very, very, I would watch that.
I would too. It would be interesting.
And to the bigger point, that would inevitably make a networking event better if you had that sort of stimulus for the conversation. Because I think, again, like, I think the magic sort of like secret of networking events is like when you have things like that to talk about, they bring people together to talk about business, even though that's not the thing that's bringing them together originally.
It makes me realize that every time I've been to an event where there's like a speaking portion first, when then you start talking to people afterwards, never have I ever talked about the speaker. I just like, there's, it was like, oh, that was interesting. You think to yourself, that was interesting. That was nice. Maybe I had a couple personal takeaways. That person was a good speaker. But the content itself is so rarely starting a conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like if you think of the networking event as the total event and you think of the panel or the speaking portion as the thing that's meant to spark debate and conversation through the rest of the event, it inherently gets more interesting. But right now I feel like it's like, this is a 45-minute segment that ends and now you may begin the networking. And it's like, imagine if you're in a room and people were having that insane debate. And now you start talking to people and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so said that thing. And I honestly, I agree. And then you're already bypassing all of that. The whole point of a networking event is to get to know someone, get to know how they think, get to know what they're interested in. You're both searching for like some mutual benefit, but you get to bypass all that awkward part and you go straight into having like interesting conversation that like immediately would tell me 10 times more about who you are, how you think, how your brain works, which is, it's so much better. I want to go to that event. Let's put it on.
I'm already in on the no phones takes and debate club as formats for conversations. And I think we should pitch that to South by next year because those both sound wildly interesting. But that's a
That's a good
conversation
idea.
for another time.
That is
That's
a
a
good
good idea.
idea.
Actually, I didn't think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good
Um,
idea.
What's it called?
Now,
But sorry, go ahead, please, Jesse.
no, I was going to say, like, I love, so there's sort of one step, which I think we're kind of already throwing really good ideas out there, which is the content itself gets better.
Yeah.
Then I wonder if we talk a little bit about how to make the awkwardness of just the human interaction better or easier. I mean, Simon, I think it was you, Simon. I know we're all really good at misattributing who said what, but I think, Simon, you were telling us, maybe it was at South by Southwest, about the color-coded name
Yeah.
tags. Will you talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit? Because I've always thought, that was really interesting.
Yeah, so I went to a network. I mean, South by, on top of being a networking event, is also essentially a collection of networking events, movies, films, entertainment, all sorts of stuff. And one of the events I went to, they had this really interesting concept, which is when you get there, you put a name tag on, but there's different colored name tags. And one is like, I'm a VC looking to invest. Another one is like, I am looking for funding. Another one's like, I'm looking to network. I forget all the other ones, but you get the idea, and you put this on. And then right away, it just allows you to kind of like find the people you're looking for and have an opportunity for conversation. But the more I think about it now, the more it sort of scratches at the same itch that you're talking about, Jesse, which is like, it's like you're almost giving people ways to break the ice, whether it be through interesting content or whether it be through a novel format that suddenly allows people to go like, because I think the thing that probably people feel the most ick about with networking is, first of all, like meeting new people is hard and a little bit scary, combined with the fact that like, and I'm doing it for a seemingly inauthentic reason, which is like career related. You know what I mean? And so I think like when you put those two together, people get the ick because it's like, wait, so I got to do something I don't like to do, but it's also in service of like something I don't feel is I don't know how personally gratifying it is to me or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you just reduce those two kind of levers of friction? And that was a really fun way to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think you touched on it, but it kind of goes, it emphasizes the transactional nature and probably the ick for some people, because it really put the transactional nature in your face, which, one could think it's actually, okay, we're not hiding the truth, everybody's here to do business. But the other argument is what we were talking about at the beginning, is how do you rebrand this to try and turn that into more of a fun thing, in which case I would argue against that idea. You see what I mean? It's like, in which case you should remove anything that makes it feel like transactional, and actually just honestly, like lots of people are now in media at large saying that the next generation is struggling to connect because they don't drink enough. And so like, is it old school? Like, I know this is not politically correct, but it's old school. Like you get in, you get a shot, like whatever.
Shots.
Like bad idea, but you see what I mean? I don't know what could make it feel like more of a fun party that ends up to the same place. You end up having those conversations, but not in a way that feels contrived and transactional. I don't know.
I think I mean, I really do love the name tag thing. I think there's a place for that. I think it's so smart to just like immediately take that that mental work off the table. But my idea for what you're saying, Roman, which is not maybe easily executable, but maybe better than just taking shots, is like, what if the first hour you were not allowed to reveal at all? You were not allowed to ask any single person, what do you do? And if you ask that question, you're immediately removed. Like if there was a way to, what I think is interesting, if you think about like, how do most great relationships start sideways? They come in through a side door, right? You find a mutual connection, something interesting happens, you're bonding over something else you saw, whatever. But that's not natural for everybody to approach it that way. And of course, the first question that anybody asks at a networking event is, what do you do? And it's such a non-human way to start a conversation. I get it, get to the point. That's what you're there for. But there's an argument to be made of like, what if the first hour it's like, you're it's called in the dark, and you're in the dark on what everybody does. And then you can find out this person that you've been talking to, like, I don't know, the lights come on and you get to find out what they do. It's literally in the dark, okay?
It's the love is blind of networking.
Yes, it's love is
Exactly.
blind of networking.
I have arguments for and against that idea.
Yes.
No, I
Go
think
ahead, take both sides.
I think it's a really interesting idea. My argument for is more of a like an anecdote. Like actually in Cannes last year, I end up, Cannes, you just sometimes just follow the flow. I end up at a dinner. I know one person who invited me there, and there's just like seated dinner, 10 people I've never met. They all work in the luxury space, all lovely. I have a few conversations. And I think the guy next to me or two chairs down, we end up chatting a lot, and we just had fun. We just talked about life, literally. Like, where do you grow up? What do you like doing? Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, I love that too. And then you start cracking jokes. Oh, you live there, but you know that person? Oh, yeah, I've met that person. But you just have life. You have kids. What do they do? And you crack jokes along the way. I had no idea what he was doing until probably 30 minutes before the end of the dinner, right? That's when the conversation happened. I was like, what do you do actually? And boom, and we talked about this, right? This is, and it might be the same for him. I don't know. You need to ask him. But this is, to me, the best memory I have of that week. I literally just connected with someone at a human level and had fun, right? So that's my argument. My argument for it is that. My argument against it is many, many times what people do is an inherent part of their identity.
Yeah,
and I
that's
think
true.
when you want to get to know someone intimately, not try to get something out of someone, but just get to know them intimately and try to understand a little bit how they think, which is part of like the fun part about meeting people and what made them. It's kind of helpful to know what they do and how they got to. So, and that's the thing that's like, it's like what do you do conversation used in a non-transactional way is really interesting. It's a really interesting one.
It's good people can weave it in and out. Do you know what I mean? It's not so black and white. I keep coming to mind of like, actually the person you two met at a party in Hollywood not too long ago was kind of that, right? Like it was always there, but it wasn't there, but it was there, and sort of like, but that led to a great conversation and kind of, you know what I mean? And I think that's why it's like, it's not necessarily, it's like, it kind of goes back to this thing I was saying at the very start, which is like, a little bit of this is on you and how you are at doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wish I could make it easier for everyone, but like, there's almost like, okay, you still need a passing grade. And if you don't get past the passing grade level, look, spoiler alert, this is never going to be fun for you.
You're going to have a bad time. Yeah.
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 You know what I mean?
Well, maybe there should be networking for people who are bad at networking, and then networking events for people who are really good at networking.
Interesting. You put it, I'm good at it, I'm bad on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's the tag. Because I think if you separate the events, I wonder how many are going to show up to the I'm bad at it.
I'm bad at networking.
And I'm just going to be with people who are bad at it.
I'll say this. I don't know, Roman, because like, look, we all come from the world of marketing. Marketing people are better at the gift of gab than a lot of other industries. And like, God knows, like, believe it or not, I used to go to networking events in the tech industry. Not the same sort of energy and fire to kind of those conversations and how organically they sort of kind of come alive. So like, there are some different industries that we're not even considering too. Different industries, different geographies, different cultures, right? Like it's like there's so many nuances to this that make it kind of actually a lot tougher.
Do you feel like?
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering. Maybe there are more of these, and do you feel like there are enough industry specific networking events, or do you feel like part of the problem is there are it's like it's a networking event, it's broad, it's generic, or do you think usually who's putting on the event tends to filter in a specific industry.
It's
Using their
very
industry.
It's very industry by industry. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my
Yeah.
buddies had that idea last year. Actually, he's a childhood friend of mine, like a brother, and he ended up being in Cannes with us, and we're walking through Cannes, and he says a version of what you said, Simon. He's like, "But look around us, like we're all in marketing. Everybody knows how to chit chat and like
Yeah.
how to charm people to get to like some business and blah blah blah." He's like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna show up to like all of the networking event of industries of people who don't know how to connect with each other. And if we do that, then we're gonna win because we know how to do it. So we're
Dude,
gonna show up to, right?
Yeah.
Wait, what were you saying?
No, I had someone else say the same thing. They're like, dude, go to the like plastic manufacturers of Nebraska meeting.
exactly.
And like, you'll blow them away. Like, it's
Exactly.
like, you know what I mean?
All right, guys, I
Yeah.
think we have a new business plan.
I thought it was brilliant. Obviously, we never did it, but he's like, let's go. Next year, we're going to like Omaha and we're going to go to like the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's actually a pretty
It's a
fun
pretty good
idea.
idea. Yeah, I do like that.
No knock on anyone from Nebraska. We just literally called them out twice there. But
No, it's
Yeah,
because like
it's
they're
interesting.
very centrally located in the country, so they host a lot of like big conferences.
they do.
Core
Yeah,
conferences.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I agree though.
All right, Simon, I'm signing you up. The next
Yeah.
one up is
Do it.
Oh, for
I
something.
mean, breaking the ice at those places would be hard. Like I would have to think. I think my strategy would be like hang out by the bar. You know
If
what I mean?
anyone can do it, you can do it. You're
Oh,
Canadian.
absolutely.
You're all like inherently curious and generous in your conversations. I think you can do it.
Do you
Give it a shot. Challenge
think
yourself.
yeah, I mean honestly, I think it's a great idea. Do you think part of the problem is that people have I like when you talked at the beginning, Roman, about networking having a branding problem. I also wonder if people's success metrics are also part of like I think people hate networking not because it was bad, but because their evaluation of the outcome was disappointing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I think that there's like an expectation that like theoretically on paper, there's a extremely high rejection rate. Like you meet 40 people, you never hear from 38 of them again. One of them, maybe you connect with on LinkedIn. And like, if you talk to anybody again after that event, like that's pretty good. But I think people hope to get a job or they hope to have like a contact that moves quickly into something else. And I wonder if like networking it's part of the branding problem that there's this false perception of like what the outcome is supposed to be.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm guilty of it, but I actually now hate that question when someone asks it to me when we have a conversation. And I asked that question a few times before. It's not the like, what's the ROI on the event, but like, but did you ever get any business out of going there? Or did you,
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't measure it as a straight line.
Directly.
No. If you enter that game, then
Yeah.
your entire new business strategy is changing. I think, especially in our service business, it's a business of relationships. It's a business of what you guys talked about earlier. People would rather do business with people to get along with than with friends. And relationships get built over time and trust gets built over time. So it's not like I went to Austin and I came back with like 3 new clients. I don't think it can be measured like that. I think it's the wrong way to look at it. And I think if you look at it that way, then you will not see the value and you will miss opportunities. That would be my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore, I agree with you. Branding, outcome,
Plus success. Yeah.
like
Reframe it
needs
all.
to be completely reframed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you bring up a good point, Jesse, which is like for us, we have the benefit of working in an independent company where we get to decide what brings value and what
The
doesn't.
value of it.
But
Yeah.
in like, I mean, like, and I think we all know this, like big corporate culture works so differently. And like, you know, I know salespeople who it's like, they're measured quarterly on conversion. That is like, here's your giant spreadsheet. Here's your Salesforce tool, whatever it is. Go after that. Go after that. If you're going to that, you better have something to put into this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which to your point must make it a different kind of equation that probably adds stress to it. And probably to the point you're bringing up, Roman, takes away the real value and opportunity from it when you get that reductive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to a networking event this evening.
Oh, wow.
Two in theory, if I can get to both of them, they're at the same time. We'll see how ambitious I am. But one of them, it's the first time I've ever seen, I don't know, maybe I don't know why. This is not like mind blowing, but it's the first time I've ever been going to a networking event where I could see the RSVP list. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I'm like, I think if you decide to go to something, you should almost be willing to be reachable. Like, I think I can argue both sides of this one too. Like, on the one hand, I think the job is on you to build a connection with somebody and exchange information based on that connection. On the other hand, there's a part of me that wants to say, if you've decided to walk through that door, that means that you're like open to being contacted. Sometimes you have a great conversation with somebody, you never really found the moment to be like, oh, should we connect? Like, I don't know, you don't actually have a way to stay connected. That's a little bit of a stretch, but I just thought it was interesting that I'm like, there's a whole RSVP list that I can see every single person who's going to this event.
I love that.
And I can prepare ahead if I want to. I know who was there that I could make contact with. Like, I think it's kind of cool.
Okay, Jesse, for the people who don't listen to the podcast but watch the podcast, thumbs up or thumbs down on who you saw on that RSVP list. All right, people are going to have to watch this video to see what way you did it. There you go. I'm multi-channeling, guys. We are the second screen.
Well, and no, it should be fun. It should be fun. I'll have fun. That's for sure.
Good.
But my I will give you a hot take though that I could do a whole other episode on.
Please.
Women specific networking events are a nightmare. They are done.
Why is that?
So horribly, and I really, really wish that they could be reinvented from the ground up. I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday about it, and I think there's a lot of some of this you can't fix, right? There's a lot of like weird inherent competition between women that it's actually far less comfortable in an event where it's all women because you're like actually sizing each other up even more than if you were just in a room with a bunch of different people. There's like a bit of competitiveness. There's a bit of, things that make it inherently already like not beneficial to networking. But my bigger problem is the minute it is, like, I think about all the times I've been to like a women in leadership blank panel, whatever. Every single one of those starts from a place of deficit rather than a place of enthusiasm. So it's always about like what women have had to overcome, the challenges of being a woman in leadership. Like the minute you put that on it, I want to go to one that's like, all right, here's how we're gonna do shit for the next 5 years. Here's like how, here's what could be so cool in the next 10 years. Like you don't get that swagger at those events. It's immediately all about the hurdles, the deficit, the challenges of being a woman in blank. And I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. And then it changes the trajectory of the conversations that you have afterwards, because then everybody's talking about, like, you can just feel this energy, like, in the room where now everyone's talking to each other about, like, yeah, it is hard. And like, yeah, like, I do go through those challenges. And I'm just like, what? Like, no, this is crazy. Why are we talking about it like this?
For obvious reasons, I'm not.
Go ahead.
No, I would say for obvious reasons, I can't speak directly to women's conferences, but you're bringing up another point that I have had experience with, which is like the culture of the conference is very top down, and there's a lot of sway over how you can inform basically all sorts of things through the way you set it up. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yes.
And I haven't
Totally.
thought about that before. I was always kind of like, I mean, as you heard before, I was a lot of like, well, you got to bring yourself to it. But you bring up a good point. It's like whenever you're showing up, like you're playing the sport they've decided that you should play. You know what I mean? And you need to
Yeah.
make sure that when you build that culture and when you create the, I'm taking this metaphor too far, but when you create the environment of what the setup is going to be, like that it is something actually conducive to not capital N networking, but what we're talking about, soft networking, bumping into
Yeah.
each other with curiosity and interest. And if you find a way to do that and kind of create the right tone and mood and all that sort of stuff, and like that's something that, I mean, take a shot if you want to, but like I was at South by, and like one of the magical things at South by that they do is there is a, oh, you're kind of doing this with a beer in your hand and in jeans. And I think for a lot
Yeah.
of the world,
Yeah.
that's a huge relief to it. You know what I mean? And that's what allows it
Yeah.
to be what it is.
And okay, to that point, like the majority of um I've been to many different versions of like a women in blank. It's always a brunch. And I'm like, I find that really interesting. I'm like, why are we not taking shots at the bar? Like what, and it's like the energy is decided for you out of the gate. It's like I'm like, oh, we're doing that thing. Like, oh, I'm putting on my like nodding face and like we're all really demure. And it's like it's such a bizarre experience. And I was at one because there I mean, someone's going to be mad at me for this probably, but this is my experience. But I was at one and I recognize like I feel very lucky that I mean, I've certainly had challenges in my career being like a woman in the room, but generally speaking, I have felt very, very supported by the men in my career and in my life. So I feel lucky in that sense. But I was at a women in leadership brunch at the beginning of the year, and there was like this exercise and people were doing that. I don't know, I forget what we were writing, but it was like trying to evaluate how aligned you were to the work that you were currently doing. And the speaker was like, so did anybody get like a 10 out of 10? Like they're completely aligned. And I was the only person in the room who raised my hand, and everyone looked at me and then they were like, oh, well, can you stand up and tell everybody like how? And I was like, what? It's like, I mean, I was like, I didn't expect to be the only person in this room who was like happy with my life, but like, okay, I'll tell you why I got a 10 out of 10 on my like spiritual alignment to my career. The whole thing was crazy, but it just made me realize how many people are there showing up coming from this place of like everything is awful. Anyway, I'm
Well,
on
I
a
mean, I was
rant,
going to
but
say, do you think you just hit the nail on the head as to why you don't enjoy those events? Like you are literally the only one in the room who's felt a certain way, whereas everyone else was, it sounds like, coming from a place of incompatibility with what their current situation was.
totally. But I think
And
that's
I
what
feel I cannot jump any further into this fucking topic than
I know.
Okay,
I'll
I'm
let
gonna
it go.
jump.
I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
I'm just gonna dip my toes on the risk of being
Okay.
canceled.
Okay, go ahead.
I think
Your
what you're saying
reputation is
is
not attached to anything you say right now. This is a purge.
I think what you're saying is networking events in general play to their own cliches just a little too much.
Yes.
Right? Regardless,
Yes.
I'm not attaching it to just I can take it to like all networking events that you've attended. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Because you could argue
Yes.
that Cannes is the number one representation of this. Cannes plays
Yes.
to the cliches of the marketing and advertising industries like all the way, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of works, right?
It
But the
does.
one you mentioned, all right, ends up like not really working. And so I think is like, how much do you play to the cliche or how much do you go and just innovate, do something completely different? And I do think based on the last 40, 45 minutes of conversation, we need more innovation. We need to stop playing to the
Yeah.
cliches and that
Yeah.
might make the things generally more interesting.
Yes.
I mean, I'll have a hot take too on something you just said too, which is like, can, because of the way it plays into cliches, does perpetuate some very dangerous things about that industry that I don't think they face head on. Do you know what I mean? As people who left capital A advertising and know the iceberg ahead for it, frankly. You know what I mean? When you're there's a level of importance attached to things that we see the writing on the wall for. You know what I mean? So like that just taking what you just said, Roman, a step further, like there's real damage to be had from playing into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You guys want me to talk more about women's networking events? I'm
I'm
kidding.
down.
We'll move on
I'm
for
all
that.
ears.
I
I'm
have
all
more
ears. I've never
feelings and
joined
thoughts
one.
on it. No, you know what else I was thinking about through the conversation is like if you think when you said Roman more innovation, whether intended or not, every like wellness club, run clubs, social clubs, wellness clubs, these things that were not that on the surface are like wellness activities are actually sort of new networking events. And I think that's kind
Yeah.
of an interesting and when you talk about rebranding networking, I wonder if it also helps sometimes to like create a shared passion to begin with that is external to an industry or piece of work that already brings you together and then let the networking
Totally.
happen within it. I think it's a really good way to overcome so many of those like personal hurdles that we talked about.
That's a very good
Think
idea.
about
That's a very
it
good
this way.
And
Like
actually,
who doesn't like the south of France and fucking rosé? Everyone likes that. Who doesn't like beer, tacos, and music? Everyone likes that. That's canon self-file. There's shared interests
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
yeah, but we were actually talking about this yesterday, Simon, in another meeting. You've heard of like those social sauna clubs in New York?
Yeah.
Like, have you read about that? Like, it's a growing trend. It's basically saunas, and then there's dudes and women separately go in, and you don't know anyone, but you're there to network, which is weird in so many ways, but speaks to what you're talking about, Jesse.
Yeah.
Like and the person we were on the phone with, who's shout out to like Space Cadet, he was like, the Scandinavians are like outraged. They're like, this is part of our culture, and you're just taking it for transactional purposes, which
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
get. But I agree with you. And you're starting like just to speak exactly like on the nose to your example. When you look at all those bigger networking events that we sometimes join, now there is the run club that you can subscribe to at 7 a.m. to go run with a bunch of strangers, right?
Yeah.
It's in there.
True.
It's in there. And so
Yeah.
like, okay, if you
Yeah.
want to go have a 5K on the Crozet on Thursday morning and at the end of June with a bunch of strangers, you can do that. So it's really interesting that it's actually starting to recognize it, but more on the fringes by people who have an interest to do it because their brand is about that activity versus someone who's like really in the business of getting people together, thinking about it through the lens of shared interest.
Yeah. I mean, okay, you guys have both talked a lot in favor of Cannes and South by. Are there components of those networking events, though, that you feel could be improved? I mean, I think we talked a lot about the content piece being sort of a
Yeah.
real game changer for everything. But is there anything else like on a larger scale?
I mean, look, I think it's true that it is playing to all the cliches, right? So you have
Yeah.
to. I mean, I speak for me personally. I go there with a very open mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. There's all the cliches. I'm also a part of it, So I'm like, sure. So I'm just gonna take what I like and just not attend what I don't like, respecting that some people may like it also. So it's, to me, it's really like there is something in it for me, I think, for us as humans and as a company that values like curiosity and building relationships.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would, change that much. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people who've been able to sustain that business over such a prolonged amount of time, keep it interesting despite the industry completely transforming in the last 15, 20 years. And I think it's hard. I don't think they get enough credit. So
Yeah.
sure, are there parts of it that I don't like? There are, but it's also just because it's not for me, right? And it's for other people.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know that I would like go in and be like, yeah, it's shit. You need to reinvent everything. But I agree, some
Yeah,
parts of
totally.
it, you see what I mean? I think
Yeah,
there's a
totally.
little bit
I
for
think
many
that's fair.
different people in it.
The first thing that came to mind, and it's not the right answer, is like there's always going to be a certain level of like faff. You know what I mean? Where it's like, to your point of like, what am I getting out of this? There's a lot that you don't realize you're getting something out of it that actually does become something out of it. But there's also a bunch of stuff that you're like, I'm getting nothing out of this, right?
Yeah.
And so like my first thought was like, how do you reduce the faff? But the more I think about it, the more I keep going to like, well, that might not be faff for other people. And then at some point, it's just like you and 6 people in a room. So like, I don't have a good answer, I guess, is my long and short of it. But like, it's easy to point to for me, it's easy to point to the ones that I've had better experiences at and go like, okay, here's what I think they got right. And then look at the ones that have had worse experiences at and say, here's what I think they got wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if I'm like being like brutally honest too, the bad ones don't attract the right kind of people. Do you know what I mean? And like a big part of a networking event is attracting the right kind of people. And whether that means the right people that you want to be having conversations with, interesting people, entertainment, having a take, not having a take, whatever it is. I think a lot of it does come down to that. And what you're trying to do is set up the circumstances to attract the right kind of people.
Amen. Oh, I also think I think if you start approaching, if you're somebody who doesn't like networking, you should start, well, this is almost the opposite, but I guess it goes back again to what you said, Roman, about rebranding it. I think you should start seeing everything as networking. Like, I think sometimes part of it is the pressure of this moment you walk into. Every workout class I go to, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. Like, you never know who you're going to meet anywhere you go. And I think it's all, like, one thing we actually didn't talk about was the importance of practicing it. Like, we talked, you talked a lot about, Simon, there are people who are good at it and there are people who aren't. And if you don't hit this threshold, you just might never be good at it. I actually think it's something you can practice. Like, I love going to restaurants alone. I sit at the bar and I make conversation with people. But like, that's a low stakes way to literally just practice like having conversation with someone. And I think if you don't do things like that, you can't just walk into a network event. So I guess full circle, like, if you don't like networking, you're the problem. Fix it.
Yeah, and obviously there's personalities, right? Like we're all a bunch of extroverts who like to meet people, and some people just their thing is just to be on their own. So that's another whole thing. That's a bit of a different conversation. But I think it's time for you to wrap us up.
Yes, I'm going to wrap it up. So networking can be very fun. That's the wrap up. Have more fun. Have more fun at networking. I think we talked about there's almost 3 components. There's the branding of networking and also your perception of what success looks like. There's the content within networking that I think is probably the area for the biggest improvement, because think about the role it actually plays in facilitating the networking experience itself, not just being like a thing to do, but actually creating conversation. So we talked about using the purge as an example. We talked about like people being able to actually have hot takes. We talked about actually facilitating like literal debates between people, but where people have to take the opposing view as a way to have that sort of purge style conversation. Make the content and the panel or the conversation or the speaker the beginning of everything else, the icebreaker itself for other people to talk about. I really think that that's interesting. So the branding of it, the expectations of it, the content around it. And then there's a little bit of the like cycle. Are there ways to help people get over some of the psychological elements that make networking potentially awkward or uncomfortable? I think I do think the name tag thing could be interesting. I think helping people, I think practicing it, like we just talked about, can be interesting. And then I won't bring up women's networking events again, but I'll do a separate podcast on that for anyone who's curious. Did I miss anything? I mean, I'm really excited to go to Cannes for the first time. I will say that. And maybe we'll do I know we're going to be recording recording the podcast there and hopefully having some guests join us. Maybe we'll bring some purge style hot takes to the podcast in can. So I don't. Oh yeah, Roman, did we crack it?
No, I don't think we did, but there's a bunch of things that I actually want to do now. I want to do the purge take day, whatever. I want to do the debate on stage with no phones. I want to do all of that. And yeah, I think Can's going to be fun. We actually already have a few, like we posted today, we have a few people who are like, hey, can I join? So it's going to be fun to do like the quick takes in Can with like people bringing their own subject. So yeah. Simon, do you think we cracked it?
I don't know if you asked us what exactly to crack, but like I think like what we're talking about is like how do we build the ultimate networking event? We got a great start on how to crack it, and I think we could crack it, but technically no. As of this moment, we have not cracked it.
Yeah. I think I'm with you, but maybe slightly more towards the we cracked it side.
There you go. Perfect. Love it. Well,
all right.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Crack It in an Hour. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you have questions, thoughts, or feedback, shoot us an email at hello@crackitpodcast.com or on Instagram @crackitpodcast. Music done by Michael Anastasi, cover art shot by Mick Mint, and all things audio and video taken care of by Nathan Nash. See you next time.